Eric, I'm thinking of changing the episode last second right now to this.
No, we already have an actual planned episode for once. There's a couple actual show notes put together. Stick to the plan. We've got a plan.
Fine.
All right, let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Poor Hammer Podcast, episode 120. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
And we are happy to bring you this season's patron-decided episode. Every season, we hold a vote and let the patrons decide what terrible idea they want to see come to fruition. And with a lot of votes behind it, they have chosen 40k Memebusters.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. Sometimes we put options in the vote that we really shouldn't have because it's just so much effort and work. This one was, but it was kind of fun.
It was fun, but it also was.
Yeah.
So we compiled a bunch of famous 40k memes, and we chose from that list about 10 of them to test on this first episode. I expect we will have many more with how many memes are already in this list.
It turns out there's a lot of memes. I mean, just in general, but there's also a lot of 40k memes. Yeah, we can't go through all of them in one episode. These are the exciting ones at the moment that we saw.
So if you have a favorite that does not make it into this first cut, and there are some that I left out purposefully so that you all beg for them, then you can comment and tell us how much you want a sequel episode with your favorite meme tested. But on this episode of Memebusters, let's get to it.
Sounds good.
All right, which one of us has to be Jamie? We both know it's me, but I don't want it to be me.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
It's upsetting.
I didn't want to say it kind of thing. It's you, though.
All right, we tricked you once again. It's time for us talking about objective markers for the third episode now. They are in stock. You can go buy them once again. Make Bricky pay for underestimating us. Go make him sell out because he dared tell me that he bought enough, and I don't believe him.
It would honestly be pretty funny.
It'll be funnier if they run out of something that's not the neoprene this time, and they're like, shit, we ran out of green. The color.
Out of color green. Yes, it would be kind of funny.
Why do we need magenta? There's no magenta on this.
Every time.
I don't even think that's how those devices work.
I hope not.
All right, enough shilling. It disgusts me. Let's move on.
All right, we've got a few things to preface us with, and the primary one is there's going to be spoilers, and it's going to be general 40k, because that's kind of how memes work.
Yeah, we are going to have to spoil key moments in 40k books, especially later in the books at climaxes when things tend to occur, because that's how memes form, and we're trying to prove if they're real or not.
Yeah, luckily most of these memes are actually pretty common, so you've probably seen or heard reference to them, so it's probably not that big of a spoiler, but we might dig a little bit deeper and it might be, so use your judgment. If you think that something that we're talking about is important to you, take a break and skip ahead to the next one.
If I tell you the end of the devastation of Baal and that spoilers, the Blood Angels are still a faction in 40k, don't get mad.
All right, that's kind of the warning.
Also, warning, this may upset you to find out that your favorite meme is not real, but that's okay.
It is okay. It's still funny.
And nothing stops us from spreading misinformation on the internet.
It's true.
All right, enough of this though. Let's begin with probably everyone's favorite classic. Guilliman loves that elven booty, specifically Yvraine's elven booty.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've seen these memes and there's a bunch of them. Great stuff.
One of them is done specifically by the Warhammer community team.
That I did not know, and honestly shocking.
It's fantastic. This is where it doesn't matter if a meme is real or not, if it's funny.
Yeah. There's really not much to the actual ship. Guilliman and Yvraine have some respect for each other, and there are occasionally coinciding goals.
Yeah, so Yvraine does help wake Guilliman up, which is probably where a lot of people get this from, of 40k players seeing a woman and a man interact and automatically assuming it's romantic.
I mean, if we flip to the script a bit, it's the classic princess kisses the prince and wakes him up thing.
Except Call is the one doing the waking part. Yvraine's just kind of there helping out with getting artifacts. So is Call kissing Gilliman? Where's that fan art?
Yeah, that could work.
Call's disgusting half face takes the mask off and it's like
Oh,
just decayed
no.
under there.
Put that mask back on. I mean, Yvraine does help a couple times. Like, she steals the Hand of Dark McGovern.
It's MacGuffin, not McGovern.
What did I say?
You didn't even get the right literary word. You said McGovern.
McGavin. So the Hand of Darkness apparently is a thing that, like, stops the plagues on Ultramar, so she takes that, but, like, there's no interaction.
Well, it was causing the plagues, and she stole it.
There's no interaction between her and Gilliman there. Like, it's helping, yes.
And when she does that, the Visarch, her buddy cop, who basically just shit talks everybody, he basically makes fun of her for helping the Imperium and being a lapdog.
Yeah, and she gets all like, oh, I can't believe you said that.
That's basically the entire thing for the ship. Honestly, this is quite easy to just verdict busted. If you want a more believable ship.
Yeah, there is a more believable ship. There's some more interactions between Gilliman and another person who actually was the one that sent Yvraine to get the Hand of Darkness, or to do the thing where she steals the hand. It's complicated, but basically he's the reason she did it.
It's Eldrad, Gilliman's best bro, who's totally not his best bro, because Gilliman said, no, he's not my best bro. I just listen to everything he says.
Yeah. We're just like real tight and good friends, but definitely not friends.
I would never be friends with an Eldar. I will never trust an Eldar. Also, Eldrad's advisor is my advisor through the entire Dark Imperium trilogy and like half of the Avenging Sun, whatever that's called.
We're just on the same team at the moment. It's only temporary.
And we were on the same team in 30K.
Yeah, they've actually had a bunch of interactions, like, and like face-to-face interaction kind of stuff, like not just...
And even indirectly, like, Gilliman has like full debates and scenes with Eldrad's lackey who hangs around with Gilliman and like is a main advisor in the Indominus Crusade.
Yeah.
Just chilling on the flagship for the Imperium.
Right, which, yeah, nothing wrong with that at all.
It's a much more adult take
Yeah.
for how an alliance works, even for temporary ones, when your goals align and you have to meet and have general politicking. 40K is not used to these things. They prefer the Unga Bunga approach, especially meme-wise. So it's very interesting and has some really good scenes that won't get spoiled as part of this, though one of them is part of a different meme that will get spoiled later. But I highly recommend Dark Imperium Trilogy for anyone who like wants some Gilliman lore.
Yeah, it's interesting that like Gilliman and Eldrad, that would be the better ship, but like even then, it's honestly just like...
You're just doing it because it's funny.
It's adults being emotionally adulting.
Not just randomly stabbing each other.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, that must mean that they like each other. And it's like, well, no, but in 40K, maybe. All right, next up.
Dante Wants to Die. This one is actually a very interesting debate as someone who has read Dante, Devastation of Baal, and part of Darkness in the Blood, and one day I have to go back and finish it.
Also, if you have your own personal problems, there's places to go kind of thing.
Yeah, we're going to try to avoid certain words that will piss off the YouTube portion of this, but Dante wishes to be done.
Right.
In Minecraft.
In 40K.
In 40K. Don't we all?
There's a lot for this one, though.
It's honestly pretty easy for me to say. It's plausible to confirm depending on when we're looking.
Right, that is true. Like,
characters can have growth in a story.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but it's not always guaranteed. Especially in 40K, it's not guaranteed. Dante has gone through several changes to his demeanor kind of thing on what he's doing. But I mean, he's fucking old.
In believable ways that aren't just retcons, that are like clearly foreshadowed in the story and pay off properly. Like the book Dante into Devastation of Baal, as much as I like Dante more, are fantastic looks into Dante and his general state of mind and everything. Darkness in the Blood continues Dante's story as well, is more Mephiston-y, but...
So, you know, before we get into like spoilers for like the stuff, like just on general, like he's like 1500 years old and is like not like the super genes kind of thing of like, oh yeah, he's just immortal. He's just like a really, really old guy who's been at war forever.
Yes, as a piece of setup, Dante is the oldest living space marine who is not a dreadnought because they don't really count, though it would be Bjorn in that case.
Or whatever temporal nonsense happens with the warp and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, loyalist space marine before we get into CSM stuff. But Dante is very old. He is so old that he appears old. He has old man face. He looks like a 90-year-old, which is not supposed to happen. Like, space marines were sold as eternal warriors who never age originally when the sales pitch occurred. And then they found out that was not the case. And they do age, and they are temporary beings.
It's just really slow, and by the time you get to then, you're probably dead because you fight in wars a lot.
So Dante spends a lot of his time dealing with the fact that he is ancient.
And like, he didn't even get to cheat like the lion and just like peace out and go sleep for a while. He's been active.
Yes, it actually gets brought up at the end of Devastation Ball by Guilliman that Dante is older than all the Primarchs, except for, I guess, the Chaos ones. But Dante has been alive for longer than Guilliman or Lion.
So like, there's a certain aspect of like, yeah, there's probably some, he's really old, he's seen a lot of shit, he's probably okay with being done with it whenever it happens kind of thing.
Yeah, so to get into the actual like headspace for Dante,
and like maybe some spoilers.
This is all character spoiler throughout. You should really read these if you think you may like the Blood Angels and Dante. But getting into Dante's headspace a little bit, Dante is physically appearing old to the point where it upsets him a lot, and he starts having anxiety about how he looks while he is an important political figure who has to be both the beacon for the chapter and for the people in his part of the Imperium as a whole. So there are Sanguinary Guard who have, for their entire life as a Sanguinary Guard, been in his employ as his personal bodyguard, who have never seen him take his mask off. That is how much Dante keeps his mask on.
Which, I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's not just like vain, oh, I want to be, you know, good looking kind of thing. It's like he's portraying a commander that leads by example. You can't look like you're 90 and dying.
Yeah, the head of the Blood Angels is supposed to be Sanguinius's stand-in, the ageless, perfect visage of their Primarch.
Yeah.
So he has all of these issues, and of course, you can't just step down from this. He really would like to let someone else lead, but he just can't seem to die.
Yeah, retirement's not part of the cards kind of thing.
There is a point where he is thumbing through the omens of the Blood Angels and their prophetic dreams, and he finds one where a Blood Angel bathed in gold armor will sacrifice themselves before the Golden Throne to save the Emperor from a Tyranid invasion on Holy Terra. And Dante, like, wholly believes that this is him, and more than that, he wants it to be him.
Because it would give, like, a reason, but also, like, a finality.
Yes. And then later on, we of course get the Devastation of Baal famous meme, which is Dante wants to die and Sanguinius doesn't let him. This is a real scene that occurs at the end of the Devastation of Baal. It is not played for laughs. It is very emotionally heavy and is really depressing if you've read Dante into Devastation of Baal. Dante basically falls to the Black Rage while fighting the Swarm Lord, dies to it. It also dies, but he was not alone either, so it's not a total meme on that side, though that'll be a fun future meme buster. Does everyone beat the Swarm Lord?
Right.
But then we get the scene that takes place in the warp where Dante meets Sanguinius and basically asks if he did a good job, and Sanguinius says yes, and Dante asks if he can rest now, and Sanguinius tells him, no, my son, I need you to suffer more.
Thanks.
And Dante is brought to tears and begs him to let him go with him to die. He does not want to have to go back. And then, of course, he wakes up and they are saving his life.
Yeah.
It is a wrenching scene when it actually happens.
And it's not the only scene that the action that he'll take could lead to his death. And he's like, if I take that, that's just what's going to happen. I'm fine with it kind of thing.
Yes. He doesn't go like full Dwarven Slayer trying to find his death at every turn, but you'll find throughout the books that he will do something riskier and defend his reason for doing it as the right choice. It's a quieter, more upsettingly real life version
right.
of someone going more into danger to have their end rather than the Slayer meme lord Unga Bunga show me the jaws of death.
Yeah, it's not literally like jumping off a cliff. It's like, all right, here's a task that is extremely risky.
Only I can get this done. done.
So I'm going to do it. And it's like, well, you have reasons, but clearly they are biased.
I will lead the battle myself.
Yeah.
So then as a final point for this, we get into the Darkness and the Blood section, where this is after he has met with Guilliman. He is now the leader of Imperium Nihilus, and he's talking to Mephiston, and they're arguing about Dante wanting to cross the Rubicon so that he can become Primaris. It is brought up by Mephiston that this is a procedure that will definitely kill him, and he does not think Dante should do it, and he believes that Dante wants to do it specifically because Dante wants to die, and Dante just keeps reassuring him that it won't kill him and that there may come a point where he doesn't have the choice anyway. If he wants to continue on, he's going to have to cross it because he's getting too old and this body is too worn out, so he needs to get the fresh Primaris body if they expect him to continue as the leader of Nihilus for much longer.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, it sounds on the surface as Dante has a will to live and has moved past his previous trauma that we explore in Devastation Ball. But when you read into the context of it, like Mephiston is clearly pointing out that Dante is doing this, expecting to die, and that Dante is just pretending that he's going to live through it.
It does feel one of those where it's like, this is going to kill you. No, it won't. It can't because I have to do this thing. No, really, it's going to. No, it'll be okay. I have to do it. And it's like, well, are you trying to convince yourself of like, you're going to be okay? Or are you trying to convince yourself that like, you have to do it? And if it's not okay, it's not okay. And that's just what happens.
Yeah. So this is where I'm going to give it the confirmed into plausible.
Yeah, there was a time.
It depends on what point of the lore we're in.
Like, there absolutely was a time. Even if he didn't admit it to himself kind of thing, like all of his actions pointed. But it is really neat to see the progression.
Yes, and it's a really well-handled take on the subject, as much as the memes are funny. So I do recommend anyone who's interested in Dante to give these books a read.
All right, next up, the lifespan of a guardsman.
This one, when it was added to the list, I was like, this is stupid, obvious meme.
It is.
So this is the classic, a guardsman's average lifespan is only 15 hours.
Yep, and like there's an entire book.
Yeah, there is the famous book it's like a short story, whatever. 15 hours, which has the tagline, basic training, 4 months. Planetary transportation, 7 weeks. Life expectancy, 15 hours.
That's a great little tagline right on the front of your book. But is it a meme?
It is a meme, but is it real? And that's where we actually were surprised by this one. I think we both went into this assuming this was classic meme, misquote off the front cover of this book, and then people just laugh it up as like, haha, that's just how the Imperial Guard is, not one specific war zone on one specific campaign book.
I feel like that's the thing, is like the meme is like, oh, every guardsman is like, oh, you're on the guard now? Well, tomorrow you'll be dead, kind of thing. Whereas like there's a bit more nuance to it.
Yeah, and this one's shocking because we have quotes from several books. Thank you to everybody who has strong opinions on the Imperial Guard and collects these quotes on Reddit, because it made researching this much easier.
It is interesting that it's like spread throughout kind of thing. It's not just one place.
Yeah, so first up we have a quote from Catachan Devils of, "It was well known, from the time of the new Imperial Guardsmen's arrival on their first battlefield, their average life expectancy was little more than 15 hours. And then continues from there. We have a quote from the 9th edition core rulebook. "Casualty rates amongst the Imperial Guard are beyond horrific. If a freshly recruited soldier survives more than their first 15 hours in a battle, they are considered an accomplished veteran." And
we've also got 10th edition main rulebook in the Astra Militarum section. "It is a horrific way to make war, an impersonal slaughter that explains why most Astra Militarum soldiers do not expect to live out their first 15 hours in combat." Yeah, so I mean, 15 hours seems to be the, like, here's the number that we're going to give out kind of thing to show.
Yeah, and we used 3 examples here that aren't the 15 hours book, obviously, but I found on Reddit people posting like 8 more of these. But I figured 2 core rule books and an unrelated book is enough.
So definitely confirmed.
This one is confirmed, and it's even more horrific if we want to follow this fact up.
Yeah, so following this up with some like, oh, but like this is 40k and like that's fucking stupid. It is. But
History sucks worse.
History is just as fucked up sometimes. So in the Battle of Stalingrad, it was basically 24 hours was your life expectancy. For a Soviet soldier in Stalingrad, for those 6 months of the Battle of Stalingrad, you would show up and your life expectancy was a day. 3 days if you were an officer.
And it is even shorter for D-Day itself. And in World War I with Verdun and several other. World War I is horrendous.
Each of the like short battle kind of things that were terrible, stacked bodies essentially. But like even some of the longer like siege type things, like Battle of Stalingrad was like 6 months.
Yeah.
That's 6 months of the average life expectancy of a Soviet soldier being a day. It's mind-blowing and it doesn't seem real. And like there's definitely some, you know, statistics being averaged out to being whatever, but it's insane.
So not only is the meme confirmed, it's also sadly dark in being very realistic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, like, there are addendums to the 15 hours of, like, this is for, like, once you're boots on ground in the active combat zone, not counting, you know, training and all that stuff. And, like, that active combat zone is a shitstorm. But, like, it's not that unreasonable to get to that point, at least for some amount of time. You know, if it lasts for a decade, well, there's only so many people, but it's crazy.
All right, let's bring it back up a bit. We'll do another IG one that's a little less horrifying.
This one's just funny.
Yeah, the Kriegs love shovels. A meme I didn't have any strong opinions of until I found out Bricky hates it.
Yeah.
So the basic meme is easy. It's that Kriegers will use shovels to melee combat opponents, including ones that wildly outclass them. So we need to figure out if this is true.
So there's, you know, a couple ways. One is just trying to look through any of the books and find it happening, and it doesn't really happen.
No, in our research over several hours of searching through other people's research, there are no examples of this. There is one where it's vaguely mentioned that they grabbed whatever was on hand and assaulted someone, but from what we have found, it appears to be like a one-off special incident in that book, and there is no mention of them using shovels regularly for melee combat. There's plenty of them using bayonets and stuff. They are trench warfare fighters and all of that, but yeah, there's nothing for real lore depicting them using shovels for anything other than entrenching tools. So there is a second way we could attack this, which is to find out a different source for the meme that is not the canon lore. This helps debunk the fact that it came from the lore at all.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, this did happen in history. There were occasions that soldiers would sharpen their shovels and use it as the melee weapon instead of the bayonet. It was very uncommon and basically only happened in like World War I Western Front trenches that were like basically they didn't have time or resources or whatever to properly dig a trench, so it was like really close quarters and you couldn't pick your rifle up and like maneuver it around. Otherwise you would always just use a bayonet, but it did happen.
And from looking online, it appears a lot of the older references to this is people joking about the fact that the Forge World Krieg kits came with entrenching tools sculpted on, whereas none of the rest of the guard kits did. This was because they were supposed to be the trench warfare division, and that seems to have been the actual origin online from everything I can find, is they had entrenching tools on them, and people started making jokes about those being the melee weapons when they were in melee combat. It's a very believable source.
It is, and like there's definitely something to be said about embracing the shovel because it's what digs you that trench, so, you know, love the shovel and live another day. But as a melee weapon, not so much.
Alright, so it's time to say if it's confirmed or busted.
It was at this moment Brad realized he was at a turning point in history. The obvious choice lay before him. He was capable of finally busting this myth that Bricky, his good friend, so hates. A friendship and the integrity of this entire episode lay in the balance.
Myth confirmed. It's undeniably true, and I need you all to post this on every platform imaginable for all time. Fill every meme thread with Kriegers doing combat with shovels. I don't want a day to go by without seeing a meme about this on social media somewhere. Tell everyone you know that this is important, real lore.
And that's when we realized Brad is an asshole. All right, I guess let's move on to the next one after that bombshell. Oh, this is a good one. And this absolutely has to have a clip played, or at least like a timestamp link.
Yeah, for the uninformed, Borrelio, please play the classic Togscast clip of the Land Raider discussion.
Wow.
Oh my god, chat's saying you find out that the Emperor is called Jimmy Space and they are his Space Marines.
It's so perfect.
This is so many people's reaction to finding this information out. So the meme is obviously Land Raider, Jimmy Space, Sebastian Bolt, every funny reveal of the reason for names of things. And this one is great because Eric didn't know as much 40k lore going into this as I did, and he had to research this one. And his reaction as I kept revealing further layers was fantastic.
It really does just keep going. And like, I knew this meme because I've watched it, so it's absolutely hilarious. And like, we've gone over some of this before, but like, it just keeps going deeper.
You went in assuming this was about Land's Raider.
Right.
So Eric did find and check that not only is it Land's Raider, it's in several books. I can point to a couple of them offhand. Belisarius Call's an easy one because Call hates land.
And like, it's an unfortunate name that they chose, but it makes sense that like, you know, tanks are often named after, you know, U.S. generals, and like, you know, they get a designation of somebody of importance or whatever. So, okay, reasonable.
Battleships throughout history, same thing, all that.
Yeah.
So that one was fine. But then I told you, no, Jimmy Space is the actual one we're testing here.
Yeah. And the person who is credited or whatever of the Adeptus Astartes is Amar Astarte. They're a scientist of ancient Terra, Amar Astarte.
I love so much that you learned this today.
This one I actually did not know.
Because Adeptus Astartes makes sense to just be the name that they went with for a code name for this project.
It's a perfectly reasonable code name of like, here's this project, that's what we're calling it, and that's just what stuck, because it's fine. It's good enough. Absolutely wild that Amar Astarte is why we have the Adeptus Astartes named that way.
Which was originally Legiones Astartes, but you get the point.
Right.
They literally got someone whose name was Space.
Yeah. Why not, right?
Then for bonus points, because Eric didn't know this one, I told him to look up the name of the mother of the Primarchs.
Yeah, it's very similar to just get somebody named Space. Instead, they got somebody named Earth or Erda. Really? That's what the mother of the Primarchs are? Okay. Thanks, Jimmy Space.
That's why this is the greatest meme, because it's just 100% confirmed on so many layers. They didn't even mean for it to be real. It was supposed to be a farce.
It just keeps going. We stopped here. I'm sure that there are so many more of like other things that are the same.
There's plenty of real world examples of this. Gauss is named after the guy who invented it.
Yeah, same thing of like Gatling, and like all of the dumb things have happened in real life as well.
But when it's fiction, you have trouble getting away with it compared to real life.
You didn't have to, and you have no baggage to force you that way. Honestly, like, it reminds me of the naming of, you know, the Space Marine different models, and it's like, why would you make them all so close? I understand that can happen in real life, but like, you didn't have to.
This is a game and I have to remember this.
Yeah, but yeah, confirmed on all of that meme and more. All right, I guess from that entertainment, let's go into Space Wolves are war criminals. That classic meme that's lighthearted. So how do you want to prove that Space Wolves are war criminals, or disprove, I suppose?
Prospero burned.
Yeah, there's a couple books that we can point to as the source of that one. That's good enough for confirmed.
The easiest one on this list.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty simple. Yes, they are.
All right, Eric, it's time to burst some bubbles for people who don't know. Let's talk about the truth behind purple orcs.
All right, so, you know, there's the purple orc meme of purple is sneaky. Great stuff. Orc memes are great.
It's one of the first things I learned about 40k from Bricky's intro video on it.
And like trying to do some research into it, like orcs do have the ability to make the color of something have a real physical effect. One of the prime examples being 9th edition Evil Sons had their culture, red ones go faster and made things go faster. Red goes faster when an orc is driving it. There is some debate about like, oh, is it because like, you know, the orc mech built it and was like, I want to go super fast, so made a bigger engine and then painted it red, obviously? Or is it, well, it's painted red so it goes faster? Like there's some of that, but like Gork and Mork definitely have some effect. So like if it was for red, definitely proven. It comes up all over the place, even just like generally. But we're talking purple.
And unfortunately, this just doesn't hold any water. It's not shown anywhere.
Which is exactly right. It's so sneaky it doesn't show up.
It's not quite how this works, Eric. I like the effort, though. And this is a good time to have a somewhat serious talk about memes about orcs, because there are many that are just not supported in official lore, but are just well-known memes about orcs. Purple orcs being sneaky, the classic. There's a few others. Adeptus Ridiculous may be responsible for I'm a Tank. We could check the validity of that on the next episode, should everyone ask for it. But the important part is not if they're true or not. It's that orc memes are more important than official 40k lore. And that's something that's important for people to understand, because orc memes are how you get people to give a shit about this game.
Yeah, it kind of is true.
It's one of the coolest things going on as far as 40k is concerned. It's just fun. It's something that makes you go, what a cool setting. I want to figure out more about this.
And it really is that a bunch of orc memes like purple orcs are just hilariously fun. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's good enough to be part of, you know, the lore just because it's fun.
All right, we've got another easy one. Magnus did nothing wrong. It should be very easy to confirm or bust this, and there will be no bias.
No bias at all. Definitely not. It's a yes or no kind of thing. Except
All right, so I'm not the one saying it. Eric, let's talk about it. What are your findings?
So, I mean, you know, it's basically the rule was don't use psychic. Emperor was like, hey, don't use psychic. That's a, you know, pretty blanket rule, don't use psychic, right? But when you put together blanket rules like that, there can sometimes be like an implied unless, right? Like, you know, don't wake me up unless the house is on fire. If the house is on fire, wake me the fuck up, right? Like that's the implied, I didn't have to say that. Obviously, I want to know the house is on fire. So
if Horus betrays the Emperor and half of the legions are attempting to destroy the Imperium suddenly, is the house on fire?
It seems like the house could be on fire, yeah. If not, it's rapidly descending towards fire.
And the Emperor knows that Magnus is a gullible dumbass who may have traded his eye for basically nothing because he believes literally anything from the warp. The Emperor, knowing that he has a dumbass for a son, did not like sit him down and explain in detail why he needs certain things to happen in certain ways. He just said, screw it. This all-powerful psyker who could screw up everything, I don't have to double check that he's not going to screw up everything.
It's not even like he had to actually lay out the plan. Would have been, you know, nice if it was like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Don't use psychic or it's going to ruin everything. But even if it was just like, hey, I'm doing something very important. Don't use psychic no matter what. Just don't do it at all. Don't care what's happening. Don't do it. Then it'd be like, all right, if he does it, it's Magnus's fault if he chooses to do it at that point. You've been like confirmed no matter what's happening. Don't wake me up. But he didn't.
And that's why I'm going with this one is absolutely confirmed. Magnus did nothing wrong.
But technically, because he broke the rule, it was a rule, don't use psychic, but he broke it, which ruined all the plans. So technically...
Which is why I should point out one of my favorite competitive list names I ever saw at a tournament. I was reading results and I found the list name for a Thousand Suns list that like went 4-1 or something. Magnus did the best he could with the information available to him at the time, which is just a wonderful name for a list.
I can get behind that. That sums up the confirmed but technically kind of thing that I'm going with. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the most infuriating one on this list.
Oh, I actually like this one. So charging a Lasgun in a campfire is the meme that we're looking at right now.
Boy, does that sound stupid.
It does sound absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it?
You'd have to be really dumb to write this into canon, Dan. canon?
It is written into canon, wherein only in death the ghosts resort to the emergency measure of cooking a charge pack. And like it comes up a couple times. They're like, oh, it's really bad for it though. But in an emergency, just toss it in a fire.
So Eric, as the scientist here, the man who understands physics more than me, defend this.
All right, so it's dumb. It is 100% stupid. But we're not in like present technology. We're in like future, and we're in a future where lasguns actually work as a weapon.
Okay, so you're just saying you're so broken from the idea of this being a thing that you no longer care.
Kind of. But technically there are a heat engine, but a more realistic thing would be like a thermal electric generator. They have some of those for like wood stoves. I actually saw a pretty neat one that uses a candle, 0.5 watt output. Let's go. And like those could realistically use the heat delta from a campfire to charge something if we really stretched hard to get to like levels of energy that would be useful. But possibly it maybe sort of makes sense. But you wouldn't just like toss it in. It would like, this would be like having an adapter for your campfire. I like it though. It's neat. It's such a stupid idea for charging something that fits perfectly with how stupid a lasgun actually is. I love it.
All right. I guess it's confirmed and physicist certified. I hate it.
It's just perfect. All right. I think we can wrap this up with just a nice cherry on top.
Yeah, this is probably the best meme on the list, that 40k players will reuse the same joke for a decade. Honestly, this was the easiest one to prove. I just had to go spend a little time scrolling through our Grimdank's top posts of all time, and not only do a lot of the jokes repeat, this joke repeats.
Yeah, I mean, you can also just look like first edition rulebook was in 1987, and like it's been more than a decade since then, so
extrapolate it out, we have 100% confirmation. We will never let a joke die, no matter how bad it is, no matter how absolutely cringe it is, it just keeps on rolling. So none of this will matter. Krieg shovels for life, baby. Everyone go tell Bricky how much you love Krieg's using shovels.
Yeah, the validity of the joke does not matter if we're gonna keep bringing it up over and over again.
All right, but I hope everyone actually enjoyed this first attempt at this. There are many more memes I am aware of. I am sure there are 100 I've forgotten. So please do us a favor, go down into the comments on YouTube if you would, and suggest favorite memes of yours you'd like to see tested. I hope this is something that people enjoy and want us to do semi-regularly with new memes.
I mean, it was good fun.
I joke about how much research this takes and how annoying it can be to do all the work to do these episodes, but like, it's a fun topic, yeah.
It really is. And I'm also kind of worried that you made that like request, because there's going to be somebody that's like a really hyper-specific meme kind of thing that's like, it's going to require a bunch of actual research to figure out.
You have to read the entire Horus Heresy and Siege of Terra to figure out if it's true or not.
Yeah.
And the answer is nobody cares. Plausible.
Right.
Everyone tell us how much you want us to research Malal. Eric doesn't even get that reference, but I do.
Retconned out of existence.
Oh, you actually did know it. Shit.
I do actually know that one.
That would be a fun one to deep dive on a future episode of this, but please give us any of your ideas below. We would love it. While you're down there, the rest of the YouTube pleasantries would be helpful. Check that you're subscribed, all that jazz. There are a lot of good episodes coming up. For patrons, right after we're recording this, I am posting for you guys a sneak peek at every single episode we're posting through the end of July. A couple redacteds in there, but just so you can see exactly what's coming your way.
It is great that we actually have like a plan, because there's some episodes that took a lot of work but are also like really exciting. So it's nice to have a plan.
I thought of everything that could go wrong and how we will compensate for it. As long as the data slate comes out this week that you guys hear this, if it's late, we're screwed.
Yeah, it's not like that's ever been delayed.
I'm just really hoping that this episode comes out like the moment the data slate hits. That is like the best possible timeline for us getting everything done at the correct times. If that is the case, expect for next week's episode to appear early. So I guess that bell thing where it alerts you might be helpful. But yeah, hot takes next week if nothing goes horribly wrong.
Should be fun. There's even a like special twist to it.
Ooh, who could it be? How could he screw up our objective markers again? All right, that does it for us this week. Enough teasing for next week. Let's get out of here so that we can get to it ourselves through time travel at a 1-to-1 ratio.
Hell yeah, I love going to sleep and waking up in the future as well.
It sounds good.
Sounds good.